February the 2nd, 2021, and you know why you're here, so let's kick this off right and introduce the players. Hey, I'm Gerissar, a PvP Padawan.
Hey everyone, I'm Andallyn, and welcome to the show, episode 122, where we are going to give you a bunch of shell shock, talking about the absolute worst healer in the game last time to the absolute best quotations healer this time. And to help us talk about the Holy Paladins, we have our friend Vindi here. How you doing, Vindi?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me on today, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes, I'm excited to talk about some Holy Paladin today.
Yeah. Kind of an off-meta class, but I mean, for those wanting to try something a little less than viable, you know, maybe tier 2. Definitely worth looking into.
Yeah, if they get buffed, it's okay. It won't hurt anything, but if they get...
Yeah, the class won't hold you back too much. I mean, it's not like, you know, not quite Mistweaver tier, but it's playable.
Oh, you guys.
Fair.
I have one question. Is there actually any healer that's better than Prot Pally? I mean, Holy Pally?
Prot Pally.
Prot Pally's right up there, but no, Holy Pally is definitely in a league of its own right now.
Oh, it is. It is indeed.
Yeah.
And you guys actually just had a bit of a nerf, but it seems like you're still going pretty strong.
Yeah, the nerf was strange. I mean, you know, the key strength of HP right now is our just instant cast heals, and nerfing Divine Favor, well, it mattered. It seemed kind of like a weird way to go. We all kind of expected just kind of blanket WoG nerfs, which would kind of make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But instead we got a nerf to a talent, which in a way is cool because now you don't have to take Divine Favor every game now. So it's not the worst nerf, because before it was just you have to take this talent. But at the same time, it's... I mean, I'm fine with... Listen, I'm cool with my class being overpowered, but it's it's an interesting decision, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely dive into that a little bit, but before we go there, let's dive into let's talk about you for a sec there, Vindi. So it's been a while since you were on the show. I think it's been a couple of years actually now.
Started BFA, I think, is the last time I talked to you guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's new? What's changed? I think you said you're rank 1 now, right?
I did get an R1 title last season. Yep. H-Pals were also pretty good last season. So with that and COVID giving me a lot more time to play WoW, I had the opportunity to play with some cool people, and we made it happen.
That's awesome, man.
Nice.
Way to be an opportunist. There you go.
And did I see your name on some of the teams there on the AWC competition?
We did play in the AWC Cup. We struggled. We didn't have a good showing. That was kind of a bummer.
That's fine.
But we were there. I'm hoping to find another roster to play with and make it happen for this next upcoming cup.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, what did you notice as the big difference between tournament play and ladder play? What kind of struck you as the major, the biggest difference?
Well, my team ran into Valito's team.
Okay.
That ended up qualifying. And I mean, they were just playing they played a very slow game. I mean, that's what everyone says about tournament versus live. Tournament everyone's playing really seriously, so games go damp.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas live, people are kind of just running in trying to one-shot each other.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest difference. That was my experience in that series. Games were just slower. My team didn't have any real TR practice. We kind of just YOLO'd it, so we struggled. But it's definitely slower. That's the biggest. That's really it, though. The games other than that feel pretty much the same.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes complete sense. So
Actually, it does make, because I mean, as you said, you're playing for money, you're playing for points, you're playing for a cup, right? So it makes more sense to try to go for the guarantee instead of just YOLOing it.
Right, going for the highest likelihood that you win, as opposed to trying to just win as many games as you might in any given evening.
Yeah.
Exactly. Fair enough. Well, I guess let's get into our what we've been up to for the last couple of weeks since our last show. I guess since Vindi, you're already kind of on the spotlight. What have you been up to these last couple of weeks, per se?
Just playing ladder, just playing. As we've noted, H-Pals are in a pretty good spot right now. So I've gotten the opportunity to play with a really long list of pretty cool people, and that's been a lot of fun. outside of that, I I pretty much exclusively queue arena if I'm playing WoW. I don't really like any of the other content.
All right, fair
And
enough.
then yeah, it's just working and WoW. It's kind of COVID lifestyle right now, unfortunately, or fortunately in some cases.
Indeed.
Sure.
What's the grind been like for you? You sit in the 20. Where are you about on the ladder? I guess.
I'm a little lower than I was. I peaked around 2980 the other day, which was at the
Wow.
time like top 50. Right now I'm
Okay.
like 2880, which is around. It's still within rank 1 range, but it's definitely lower than my peak was for the season.
Well, we still got time in the season, so it's
Yeah, that should be okay. I'm thinking, but you never know.
fair enough. Andallyn, how about you, buddy? What have you been up to these last couple weeks?
Well, let's see. We've been, I guess we've been recoursing and backtracking on what we're gonna try and queue, and we're trying to just kind of have some fun. I've been getting a little bit busier on some other stuff with work and my personal life and stuff like that. So I've been juggling a handful of different jobs that just kind of piece together to make some kind of livable wage. And so I'm cutting back on some of my game time, but my arena buddies and I are like, okay, well, geez, what should we play then with the time that we have? And so I think we're going to try to distance ourselves from the RMP a little bit, especially with Final Form coming out here pretty soon on the Necrolords. It's way too sweaty. It's way too it's just a little bit more than what we want to bargain for right now. So I've been gearing up in. I just got my legendary today for some enhanced Sham. I think we're gonna try and play some turbo. So.
Oh.
Turbo is a very good comp, especially right now after the most recent buffs. It's,
absolutely 5% each.
Yeah, I just got my butt kicked by some turbo just before the show, so definitely a quality comp.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've never, up until last night, I had never actually ever played an enhanced shaman in the game ever. So it's kind of cool. It's like a brand new class, quite literally. So I've enjoyed it so far, and just kind of learning what happens when I press this button. And it's so different because it's not really you don't have like a spender or like a resource generator, like a generator and a spender. It doesn't kind of ebb and flow in that same type of way. The whole Maelstrom weapon is more like just like a stack builder, and then and you expend those stacks. So it's a different type of feel. It's been kind of neat so far. So
nice. Yeah, no, I mean, I think a big thing I think that you'll notice with different enhances is just knowing when to heal, when to damage, how to manage that Maelstrom. But some of the enhances I play with, I feel like I'm playing with a second healer, just kind of communicating. Oh, hey, you save us now. Okay, now I got us, and it's a balance, but seems like a lot of fun and definitely strong right now.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be fun to play in my off time. So
nice.
But Gerissar, what about you, man?
That's a good change up for you. That's a great question. So great news. I finally got the Thundering Cloud Serpent from Hulan. Effing thing finally dropped for me. Yeah.
There it is, the bald king.
132 tracked kills. This time that was actually tracking on my Windwalker, and that doesn't include the I don't know how many other 100 that I killed since Mist of Pandaria. Since the Timeless Isle popped on Mist of Pandaria. So, but yeah, finally got it, and now I parked my Windwalker up in that bloody red pool up at the top there to kill Garnia until I get the Ruby Droplet, because that's my next goal up there. So, yeah, man. It kind of. So what happened there really is, and the idea is that I downloaded Rarity. I put that, I installed that add-on onto my my system again, and because it started working finally again, they updated it, and I realized just how many things I just don't have. So I decided to go on a little collector spree, and since it's COVID, so why not want to have that running in the background while I do some real work. And as soon as I hear that little bling bling, I pop up, kill whatever's there, and then carry on doing my job. So uh, don't quite have the time to do arenas, but at least I can farm up a couple things, a couple oddities. And what else? Oh, Andallyn, you and I had the pleasure of joining Scrubs versus the World there on Saturday night.
We
That
sure
was
did.
pretty cool.
Yeah, we enjoyed talking with them a little bit about PvP.
Yeah.
You can go check out that episode. You can find them over on the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, I think they said they're going to be editing this week, so it's going to be showing up. I think this coming weekend is when it should show up. But
right, and you can we'll tweet that out when it comes out for sure. So
exactly. I'm just trying to think what. Oh, and then I got to catch some of the AWC on the weekend. So the Championship Sunday, that was absolutely a blast. And we'll talk about that in a second as well. But before we get into that, let's roll into Need, Greed, and Pass and hear what Andallyn has come up with.
This likely won't be a clean. All right. So keep your distance, eh?
all right. So if we're being honest,
Yeah.
I forgot it was my turn this week. All right.
I'm not the only one. Yes.
I know. What you've cursed this, and
I
I recognize this more as your fault than mine, but that's okay.
When in doubt, blame Gerissar.
Okay, so here we go.
All right, okay, all right. I was gonna preface this so that it'll give you some time to come up with something.
Let's go. This
all right, let's do it.
This is not a We don't need to labor over this any more than necessary. So
All right.
So here we go. If we can add stuff into the game, all right, we can add in we're adding new game modes to the game. All right. And Vindi, are you familiar with this segment?
I'm trying to remember. Did we have this last time I was on here?
I don't think
we
so.
did.
So,
Yeah, so
Gerissar,
this
give
is the
him the
first-
rundown so I can confirm these things in my head.
Okay, that's what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
All right, so
Fair enough.
all right, so in this segment, again, one of the hosts will pose a scenario with 3 options related to World of Warcraft. We, the participants, as well as chat and you folks at home, can also decide on what you will need and which one you will greed and which one you'll pass on. So let the hilarity commence, as we will decide on what we will need, greed, and pass. So.
All
So
right.
basically what's going to happen is Andallyn is going to pose 3 options, and you have to pick 1 to need, 1 to greed, and 1 to pass. Let's go.
Okay, so here we go. First option: rated duels.
Ooh.
Okay. Second option: 5v5s.
Oh, bringing back the old school.
Bring it back.
Fives are fun.
5v5s. Third option is trio battle royale.
Trio battle.
Battle
So-
royale trios.
What would that be?
So essentially, a battle royale is where everybody, the planes come over.
Oh,
you
I
drop-
see. Yeah.
Where we
like
dropping,
Apex
boys?
Legends.
Yeah, exactly. And you and your threes team, and it's a complete like if two
Yeah, it'd be
threes
fun.
teams are fighting and another one comes and then you come up and clean them all out with a convoke or something like that.
That could be pretty fun.
That would be.
Yeah, but you get to queue up with your threes team.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that could actually be kind of cool. I mean, I kind of like that one.
Is the battle royale a last man standing kind of thing?
The last team standing, yes.
Last team
Yeah.
standing. Okay. Huh. All right.
So-
I think I'm ready for this. I think I know what I want to do. If
I
you
think I
don't
got
mind,
it as
Vindi.
well.
Cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So as much as I love the old school, the 5v5 really tugs at some nostalgia there. I'm actually gonna pass on that. I'm gonna pass on it. I'm gonna need on rated duels.
Yeah.
I think that would be a very fun ladder game. Obviously there's a few expansions where that wouldn't have worked very well, where things like rogues were king on the 1v1 and everybody else was lesser. I think this expansion, that's not quite the case. I think there's definitely some good dueling championships there that would happen. So I'm going to need on the rated, and I'm going to definitely greed though on that trio battle royale. That sounds like a lot of fun, but between the two, I had to pick one, right? So,
Yeah. Well, with the rated duels, I would think that you would have ladders that were unique for each class. Right? So, like, your rating would be like your rating amongst other rogues, not necessarily your rating amongst the whole lot of players.
Okay.
Right?
I imagine that. Yeah.
So like 2700 might be a really good rating for like a warrior or something like that, but it might be a terrible rating for a rogue. Like, you know what I mean?
All right.
Or however they want to
I
equalize
like
the yeah.
So
I like the idea of being the number one 300 CR Demo Warlock.
There you go.
There you
Yeah.
go. And that would probably be the number one on that ladder. I was gonna say, not to be
Page one
contrarian,
of one. Yes.
I think my order actually was going to be the opposite of yours, Gerissar, just because I just see if we had a rated duels, 1v1 scenario, the balance would lead to nightmares, and just people saying, oh, my class can, people already say that right now. Oh, my class is bad because it can't 1v1. It's like, you're a fire mage.
But the rat kills me, man.
Exactly. You're just like, all right. So the nightmare of what forum forum posts would come out of rated 1v1s. I'm just like, we can't have these things.
That's a fun though.
Teach their own. And then I think that rated trio sounded like quite a bit of fun. But
the battle royale. Yeah.
The battle royale, I like that. I think that could be really cool. But I would also agree with that just because I would like to see fives come back. I'd like to see that additional bracket. I would have it. Ideally you'd want to give it separate rewards than you give from rated threes. But I think there'd be a lot of potential for quite a bit of fun if we had something like that back. Because I had a lot of fun back in fives, back in Wrath, and I'd like to see it come back.
Nice. Very cool.
So I kind of missed that. Which one would you actually need on then?
I would need on the fives.
The fives.
Need on the fives? Okay. Cool. And then greed on the trio. All right.
I think the trio has a lot of potential, but I thought islands had potential, and then we went into islands and oof. So
I'd say I think islands had the potential if it wasn't for the Azurite power requirement that just turned him into a grind.
Yeah.
And then people just went there to just go and just
go get it done, and you just couldn't wait till it was over. And,
Exactly. And that just when that happens, it loses the fun.
That's fair.
Andallyn, what's your choices of your selection?
So I'm gonna need on the battle royale trio. I think that this could be so cool. Like imagine you're like there's just a bunch of people in zeppelins, and the zeppelins start flying over Elwyn Forest, and it's like, yo, where are we dropping, boys? We going to Goldshire? Nah.
That could be very cool.
We drop it on Hogger. Like, tell me, that doesn't sound awesome. So, and then you have the whole zone, and it's just the last team standing, and you can try to go all out, pick each other off. And I think it'd be really cool because what you would want to do is, like, in a lot of battle royales, they have it where you go and pick up your guns. You go get your loadout, so to speak.
Right. Pick up
what you should be doing is you should be killing mobs that drop anima powers, like in Torghast.
Oh, wow.
That works.
That'd be pretty cool.
It works. That's right. So I think that would be awesome. I think that'd be awesome because I've always wanted to see like this type of PvP. Oh, that should have been one. No, what was I thinking? Oh, it should have been the Torghast one where I've always wanted to see like where people finish Torghast and then they have to fight each other. But that should have been one. Oh well. Missed chances, man. Missed chances. But
yeah.
So I'm gonna need on that the battle royale.
All right.
I'm gonna grade on the rated duels. I think that would be really cool. I think there's a place for that, and I don't think there even necessarily needs to be elaborate rewards for that. I think duels have always been something that's more about like the bragging rights or the or just like the ability. I think if you made it purely cosmetic rewards off the rated duels, that would be exactly what you would want to do. Because duels have always been like a look at my EP kind of thing, you know.
Sure.
And then I'm gonna pass on the 5v5s. 5v5s was fun. I never was really able to get into it. But I know a lot of people have a certain nostalgia for it. But I think that's... Personally, I kind of feel like it's a little bit like that just because it's gone.
One thing that was cool about it, too, was just... I guess my memory of it was playing in Wrath, was playing, like, these crazy forecasters in a Holy Pally, which was the meta back in Wrath.
Nice.
And it was just insanely fast, and but it could be some nostalgia. It's possible that it would just be
Of course.
unbalanced mess that nowadays.
Yeah, and that's not misplaced, I would say, but for sure, absolutely.
It's funny you mentioned that. We're talking about that in the Discord there, because we're seeing that the Burning Crusade is going to be coming out on the classic servers, and that was when Arenas first came out, and so we're talking about that. And I think it was one of the regular listeners there. He was talking about his comp he normally went in was a Holy Pally, a Disc Priest, and three Hunters.
I'm sure it worked.
Wow,
I shouldn't say I'm sure it worked. BC, I was pretty young back in BC, so I was really bad back in BC. I barely knew how anything worked.
Yeah.
So
I can see it. I can see it right now. The 5s team. A Disc Priest, a Holy Paladin, double Boomkin, Avlock.
Yeah, I remember I tried in BC to make I was just to get one of each healer and a warrior, and I was like, we'll never die. And we never killed anything.
It's because you didn't have Convoke.
No, we didn't.
Mastery Convoke.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't have. We had nothing.
Nice.
Well, rather than talk about what we didn't have, let's talk about what the upcoming PvP events are.
Yeah, let's do it.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
All right. So upcoming WoW PvP events.
Indeed. So the usual suspects, as always. We got Dalaran Gaming is always doing that 5v5 1v1 duels. So go check him out. Flark surprisingly came back to do his 3v3 tournaments. Didn't do it this weekend, but it was the weekend before, and we'll talk about that. And so maybe not every weekend, but definitely is getting back onto hosting those. So again, you have to go over to the Synergy Discord to see those when they're popping up. Two most recent additions just announced today. There's the Diabolus 3v3 Death Bowl is returning. So if I'm not mistaken, so I'll have the link for these in the show notes over on the Twitter sphere. But with Diabolus, it's going to start with sign up starts tomorrow. The qualifiers start on the 11th, and the 17th and the 18th of February is going to be the broadcast days. So that's going to be fun to watch. I remember the last time Diabolus did it. It was a blast to watch them. So highly recommend go check that out. And then also the Oasis Community Discord is going to be hosting a 1v1 duel on the 17th of February as well. And this one I actually want to highlight because our own Kexman from the Warcraft Radio is going to be helping out with, Mystical to do some of the casting for that one.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I'm pretty excited for that. And it's going to be awesome because those two events are then going to lead right into BlizzCon Online. So it's some nice little
that's right.
little PvP esports action right before BlizzCon Online happens.
Nice.
And then of course we have the Blizzard tournaments. So this weekend coming up is the second MDI Cup on the 5th and the 7th, and then following up after that is going to be the EU and NA on the 12th and the 13th. Culminating on the grand finals on the 14th. Then they're going to have a little break because BlizzCon Online again. Then starting back up on the MDI and AWC leapfrogging through the 26th of February, the 4th, 5th, and 6th of March, and then the 12th to the 14th of March. So, and that should finish us up with this first season of the Blizzard Esports. And then we'll get to go into some of the circuit stuff and some of the regional finals and see who comes out on those. I'm pretty excited for that.
The North American meta, it's crazy. We just have these top 5 teams that are just
oh gosh,
They're just really
Yeah.
good.
Yes, they are. Normally we talk about this in a later segment, but I just
Sorry,
want
I
to
didn't mean
highlight.
to-
No. It's I'm totally okay with it. I was really surprised to see just how the NA meta, how that second cup rolled out. If people haven't checked it out yet, go watch the VODs.
Mm.
There was there were some really great games, and just the whole
Really
battle
fast
between.
ones.
Pardon me.
Some really fast ones.
Oh my gosh!
Absolutely, yeah.
It was exciting.
Yep.
But that's one thing that's, I mean, not to diverge too much, but that's one thing I think I've noticed is Shadowlands feels a lot faster. It does feel more fun. Just games can end, which is a change. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good change.
Indeed. We were talking. There's some comments made on the guild Discord. We're talking about this, and one person pointed out is just how just your regular damage is healable, but it's the burst is so crazy that's where the death points happen. So once you put a healer into the stun, if you line up your burst correctly, you should be able to just erase somebody within that CC window. And that's really where, and I think Andallyn, you were saying this, that's where pre's are really so important in this meta, this first season, where you have to see it coming, you have to pre-wall, you have to pre-sack, you have to do whatever you can to preemptively prepare for that burst, because otherwise, if you just wait until you're in trinket, then the next time your team's screwed, really, right?
Yeah, as a healer, absolutely. It's very much been the meta. So,
yeah. Well, while we're talking about the meta, let's pick the rest of Vindy's brain here and figure out what makes Holy Paladins tick.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
All right,
let's do it. Let's talk about HPAL.
let's do it. So, the first thing I've been really liking to do when we first start talking about all these classes is the differences between BFA to Shadowlands, because there was a great unpruning, because things were taken off of GCD and stuff like that. But really, I mean, some talents were shifted around a little bit, and there's a few changes. But for the most part, the classes are pretty much what they were, aside from some small tweaks. I guess let's first talk about what were those changes. What exactly changed for the Paladin, the Holy Spec of Paladin, from BFA to where we are today?
Well, I guess this if we're gonna go from the end of the final season of Shadowlands to the first season of the last season of BFA, the first season of Shadowlands, the biggest thing Holy Paladins lost was that corruption ability, Ineffable Truth.
Yeah.
Ineffable Truth obviously was an RNG proc that randomly gave us basically all of our cooldowns back, which was really strong.
Night Fae before Night Fae was a thing, yeah.
Yeah, Night Fae, except 30 times stronger than Night Fae.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, not 30, but you could actually say, at max you had 270, I think. No, I think at one point I had 330% Ineffable Truth. So that's 11 times stronger than what Night Fae does for you.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was... that was a big ability. And that RNG has been replaced by giving us another form of procs. Now HPAL still has some RNG involved in it. We get Divine Favor procs, which give us WOG, which is something that we've been giving back, and I guess there's quite a few things that are different. So we lost Ineffable Truth, which was we got all our cooldowns back. We gained back Hammer of Wrath, which is a really important ability that I think probably a lot of people starting out HPAL aren't using enough, because whenever you push Hammer of Wrath, you get a holy power, and it costs 0 mana. So not only does Hammer of Wrath do a lot of damage, but it's also kind of giving you free healing. So anyone getting into HPAL, definitely find a good keybind for your Hammer of Wrath. It's a very important button to push. Yeah. We got our holy power back, which is what kind of just allows HPAL to just come out of CC and top their teammates and without casting. That's kind of self-explanatory as how it works. You generate holy power through a variety of means, and when you have 3 of them, you can pop out a big cast, and there's a chance when you cast that it procs two things can proc every time you push Divine Favor. Almost all Pallies are currently playing a talent called Awakening, which whenever you push Wog or Light of Dawn, but you never push Light of Dawn. Whenever you push Wog, you have a 15% chance to get 10 seconds of wings. So, and you also have a 15% chance to get another free cast of Wog. That Divine Purpose proc gives you another Wog, and that Divine Purpose proc can also proc Awakening. So, a lot of opportunities to proc.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities to proc free wings. And free instant heals. So and because of how strong Word of Glory is, that's kind of why HPAL is just able to, heal their teammates so much without casting, which is incredibly strong.
And that's really important though, because if you're not casting, if it's just instant cast, then you can't get kicked, which then you're not
right. Not only can you not
out.
get kicked, but you can also time your heals between bursts, right? So like, let's say my teammate's getting combusted on, I'm not CC'd. Well, I don't want to have to cast a heal, right? I want to be able to heal him. As soon as he's gonna dip from full to dead in 2 seconds. So 1 second in, I want to be able to throw a heal on him because I only have 2 seconds to get that heal. So if I can time an instant cast heal right as he starts to dip, then he's not going to die in that burst window, and that's incredibly strong.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. I guess. All right.
Well, no, I'm just trying to think about what else we've gotten. We've gotten, we got Concentration Aura, which is kind of a good quality of life thing. I don't necessarily think it's. I wouldn't say it makes or breaks HPALs, just because in most clutch situations, if you get kicked, it doesn't save you.
You're just dead. Yeah.
But also with the current WOG design, in most clutch situations, you should ideally be in a situation where you don't have to cast. If you do have to cast, once again, you're probably going to die. So getting kicked doesn't necessarily matter.
I think Concentration Aura, the way I read it, is while that's more of a support for your teammates, especially if you're doing a caster cleave team, because then that saves the caster cleave, the other casters.
It definitely helps them, and teammates will say, "Oh yeah, it's kind of nice," but it doesn't. It's the same idea though. Usually, the worst part about getting kicked is not necessarily the lockout, but just the fact that the spell you were trying to get off didn't go off. So the lockout reduction, while handy, isn't really game breaking.
I think a Shadow Priest. I'm just gonna say, I think a Shadow Priest might actually disagree with you, because if they get kicked on Shadow, then they can't disperse.
Well, but it's the same situation. A Shadow Priest probably shouldn't be casting Shadow School, in a situation where they're in trouble.
Oh, fair, yeah.
Well, it does help them. It's the same. Usually, I mean, if you're low enough, I mean, they can still get killed in that 2.8 lockout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
good point.
And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. Even people that are playing in a 15, 16, 1700 range in arenas, I can't tell you how many times as a healer I've been like, okay, this is going to be such a tough game. Like there's a, they've got a mage, Ellie, H-Pal or something. Like they're countering us because we're playing RMP. And that Holy Pally just kind of starts trotting out there, starts casting a Holy Light, kicks, dead.
Yeah, of course.
Andallyn, 0 damage, 0 healing. Victory. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, my team just kills him because you get kicked on Holy, you're dead. You can't bubble.
Correct.
And he's 100%.
Even with Concentration Aura.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's just like...
my
team will be like, oh, dude, cast another Holy Light. Cast another, I dare you.
Yeah, H-Files get punished even harder because not only can we not bubble, but we can't even put our 20% wall up.
Yeah.
So we, can absolutely dissolve even with Concentration Aura in a rogue kick or a mage kick lockout.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so that can be helpful, but in a way, it's not the savior per se. It's not going to make or break.
There's almost at one point there was almost this ego thing with like top H-Files where it's like, oh, I don't use Concentration Aura because I never get kicked anyway, right? If I get kicked, I'm bad, so I deserve to lose. Oh, this guy uses Concentration Aura.
Yeah.
he just sucks. He just it's like there's almost a little bit of ego with it, which is silly, but
no, fair. You gotta get your ego pumps where you can. All right.
No value. I'm a master of juking. What can I say?
Literally. Why I'm going to use Devo War every game. It's 3% less damage, and I never get kicked anyway. So
fair enough. All right. Is there anything that is or was on GCD that's now off?
Yeah. So Wings. Wings is the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Wings is off GCD. I think. I want to say Holy Avenger is off GCD, but I couldn't even tell you because I've never talented that ability. It's worthless.
All right.
It
we'll
is
talk
off
about that in a
GCD.
sec. Okay.
But yeah.
It is on GCD. Okay.
It is off GCD. It's off GCD.
Oh, it's off.
So,
Okay. That's smart.
Yeah, but that's and then other than that, I mean, the only other button for an HPAL that you would want to know about that's off GCD is your Kyrian Vial, which is kind of like a help stone.
Yeah.
But that is also off GCD.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. You're talking before for damage. What's the kind of damage that a Holy Paladin actually is? Is it actually significant? Are you doing
absolutely.
like?
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Oh, really?
HPAL damage matters.
It's huge.
Especially on a kill window. Hammer of Wrath can hit. I think I've seen up to 6-7k Hammer of Wrath. Judgments I've seen hit up for like 9k.
Wow.
Like, this is like peak with LA Shaman on your team, right? With what's it called?
Win Free there?
Sky Fury. What's Sky Fury?
Okay.
So I mean, these are like perfect conditions, but I've seen, and then there's also a Covenant thing that can make you do just comical damage. But if you're running a typical build, I mean, when your teammates are looking for a burst window, if you throw in, a Hammer of Wrath, Judgment, and then a Holy Shock on top, it's going to really increase the chance that your team gets a kill. So you definitely want to look to be throwing damage when you are looking to kill.
Yeah.
Andallyn, just for comparison's sake, what's the damage that you're doing as a Disc Priest?
So it's not that of an HPAL, which is actually kind of, but it's tough for me to say though because I'm also running RMP. I don't play a comp that has off heals. So like Vindi, what comp are you playing?
I have played every comp that you can pretty much think of.
Oh, okay, but you're not grinding on a certain comp.
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. So like, I think as a disc, it's tough because like we do damage to heal, but that's not really a thing anymore. But like it kind of, but like it's like great. I'll heal you for like 300. My atonement healing is not very much, but like
I've seen Shadow Word Death hit pretty hard.
Yeah, Shadow Word Death hits pretty good. If I can hit you, I also run the legendary like. I don't know. I don't want to make this thing into a Disc Priest thing. We're talking about HPALs, but like I use a legendary that when I use Radiance, it gives me another bolt on Penance. So and then when I run Castigation or whatever, so that gives me
so
5 bolts.
5 bolts. Yep.
Yeah. So like I've dropped people from 20% with a Mind Games and 5 bolts of Penance when my teammates were CC'd. And it's just like, yep, Disc scores the kill. So
yeah, no, you also have Shadow Word Death, which is significant. So, I mean, I'd say most games. Like, I mean, I was playing some games against RMP earlier today. Let's look at the damage. Yeah, the Disc Priest is out damaging me in most of these games. Just his number 1 damage was Reflective Shield, though, so that's not really significant damage.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Reflective Shield is overrated, but yeah.
Ish.
Sure.
Okay.
But no, I wouldn't say. I mean, HPAL definitely has very good damage. I wouldn't go as far as to say I think we do more damage than a Disc Priest in all situations. Maybe we can.
I think it's comparable. Comparable. If we both have a teammate where that can provide off heals, and we're having to put out about an equivalent amount of heals, we're probably going tit for tat in terms of damage.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess what else? So for CC support stuff, I mean, you have your Hodge, right?
Yep, Hodge rep, and blind. all three of these super good in different comps. A lot of the times if we're playing a melee cleave or RNP, you're going to want to go with blind. I think blind is kind of something the situation to use blinding light is basically if your team doesn't have a lot of fear DRs. And you don't want to be sitting on their healer very often, right? So the person, if you don't plan to spend a lot of time near the person that you want to CC, then blinding light, and you don't have a lot of DRs, blinding light's probably a good play because you get in, you Hodge blind them, and then you try to stay away from them until they're back up.
Okay.
Rep is good. Rep is less good right now in the current meta because you can score a kill so quickly. While it's still definitely a good ability in a lot of situations, you do still have to cast that rep, which opens you up to counterplay. And with things like, I mean, Warriors double reflect being so prevalent, and abilities like that, it's often better to just have the guaranteed CC of a blinding light.
Yeah.
But there are situations where, similarly, if you don't have a poly DR, you can get a lot of value out of Repentance. And then Short Hodge is obviously just, are you playing a caster cleave? Are you usually killing? Is your Hodge usually what's going to be used to score the kill on the kill target? In that case, you're probably running Fist of Justice.
Yeah,
fair enough.
For sure. Definitely.
One last little question about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How important is Divine Steed, really?
It's very important. It's our main mobility. It's huge. It's our main form of mobility. It's a decent sprint. There's a conduit right now that not a lot of people are using, but I'm just using it because I don't have better ones that makes it like last twice as long. So like I can when I pony on my one character, I think I'm on my horse for like 6 seconds, not 3 seconds.
Wow. All right.
But I mean, and I switched my covenant on this character. That's why it's all right. It's when I'm not even normal covenant thing, my pony lasts like 5.5 seconds, so I can kite quite a bit and avoid either engage or get to where I need to be. So pony's definitely an important ability.
Yeah. That's like 2 pillars on Tolvaron.
I don't know if it's quite that far, but it's definitely relevant.
No kidding. Okay, cool. And turn evil and cleansing. How often are you dispelling, and how often are you turning evil?
Well, you're dispelling almost on cooldown in most situations. I mean, sometimes you want to cleanse. I mean, it's one of the most core things about healing, right? I mean, a lot of people didn't think that prots would be able to heal because they didn't have cleanse. Because it wasn't necessarily the case. Yeah. But being able to cleanse is very important. Cleansing things like mind games can prevent death. Getting your teammate out of a poly, can obviously be really big. Mm-hmm. There are countless scenarios, but cleanse is crucial. Anyone healing needs to find a very easily to hit keybind for their cleanse, and get used to getting yelled at about it a lot.
All right, that's good to know. Okay, and I guess just one we didn't turning evil. I think
that's super situational.
Yeah.
Me and my friends were talking about it the other day. We tried it in some weird situations where right now the meta for hunter pets is to use this undead pet to make it so you can't poly it. So I was turning evil the pet so that my mage could get a combust. Like really weird niche situations, but
that's super niche.
If a DK uses Lichborn, you can fear him, but that's almost just to be If you're a tryhard like me, you can try to find a place in your keyboard to push it, but it's not super important.
Huh. I saw somebody talk. Actually, I think it was in the guide we picked here. Born Good was talking about using it to lock down a shadow feed. So
I didn't even need to do that.
To counter Shadow Priest.
I wasn't even aware that worked. I'll have to try to do that sometime.
All right. Nice. I don't know either. I just read it on a guide, so I'm assuming it's right.
Well, Born Good knows his stuff, so I'm sure if Born Good wrote it, I'm sure it works.
I kind of hope so. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I guess why don't we go into our normal stuff here, Andallyn, and why don't we go through the talents and see what's good and what's needed.
Sure. Okay. I'll start off with the first row then.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
So, Vindi, I'm going to just read these, just kind of like what we did normally. Read them out to you, and then you can just kind of give us the breakdown and what your thoughts are on like what's situational, if this is a talent lock or whatever it is. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have Crusader's Might. Crusader's Strike reduces the cooldown of Holy Shock by 1.5 seconds. We also have Bestow Faith. This is a 6% of your mana cost. You begin mending the wounds of a friendly target, healing them for 210% of your spell power after 5 seconds. And we also have Light's Hammer. This hurls a light-infused hammer to the ground, dealing 20.5% of your spell power as holy damage to nearby enemies, and healing up to 6 nearby allies for 25% of your spell power every 2 seconds for 14 seconds.
Okay, so Crusader. So basically, in this row, I would say Bestow Faith is kind of the move right now. Bestow Faith actually heals for quite a bit, and it's kind of nice to have that time bomb heal. Like, when I was queuing earlier today against RMP, for example, I see they're seeing my teammates, so I know they want to do a go on me. So right before I get stunned, I can put Bestow Faith on myself, and I get a heal in the middle of that CC combo. It's also just a strong off instant cast heal, and it provides a holy power. So it's I think it provides a holy power.
Yeah, it generates 1 holy power upon healing.
Yeah, it's a good button. I really think Bestow Faith is usually the move here. Your standard smite is like, while it's okay, Holy Shocking isn't as important as it used to be. Not as much of our healing comes from Holy Shocking, and not as much of our Holy Power generation comes from Holy Shocking. We get a lot of that from other casting. So you also just don't really want a Crusader's strike that much. So while it's not terrible, maybe in like a scenario where you might do this is if like you're doing 2s and you just want to do a ton of damage in 2s, because more offensive Holy Shocks would lead to more damage. So there are like some situations where you'd use it, maybe 2s, but very few in 3s. So to a player getting started with Holy Pally, you can pretty much lock in Bestow Faith and be safe. And then I almost don't feel like mentioning Light's Hammer because it's been a meme for as long as I played the class. I don't even know why it exists.
Still, yeah.
Trivia question.
Mm-hmm.
Would Light's Hammer be worthwhile for if in a BG situation? Could you drop it on a flag?
Just not enough. I don't even know if it causes an interrupt.
Yeah.
I don't think it does, because I feel like people would take it and you would see it.
Okay.
I think it's just like...
Yeah, I know there's some AoE stuff that doesn't quite work in that, so I wasn't sure if it did or not. So.
I'd have to test that, and I apologize for not being sure. But
I have seen someone try and do that before. I don't know if it spins the flag, but like, just it's worth noting that like, it's less than 10% of the healing that Bestow Faith does. Like,
yeah,
like
I get it.
I mean, like, I can see myself taking it, and like, if I'm playing against someone I know I'm going to beat, and I have a low opinion of them, and I want to BM, but that's about it.
All right.
Yep.
I could use it as a flag.
No worries.
Throw it on the corpse. But...
Just
exactly.
as a fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wah. I beat you with Light's Hammer. Come on, bro.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
That's just not nice. It's funny though. Okay. Next here we got the Saved by the Light. So when an ally with your Beacon of Light is damaged below 30%, they absorb the next amount of damage equal to some funny math with spell power and versatility. You can't shield the same person this way twice within 1 minute, so it has a 1 minute cooldown internal. Judgment of Light. So this judgment causes the next 25 successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker for 7% of spell power. And Holy Prism. So fires a beam of light that scatters to strike a clump of targets. If the beam is aimed at an enemy target, it deals 75% spell power as holy damage and radiates a bunch of healing to 5 allies within 15 yards. If it's aimed at a friendly target, then it heals for 140% of spell power and radiates holy damage to 5 enemies within 15 yards. That actually sounds like quite a bit of healing on a friendly and some good damage, but I'm guessing you probably want to avoid that because it does uncontrolled damage. So if you have somebody in CC, you could probably break them out of CC, eh?
So Holy Prism is worthless. It's even if it did heal for a decent number, which it doesn't, heals for it just crit me for 4k. So it heals for very little, and even if it was a good ability, it breaks. It'll break all your mage's sheeps, and more importantly, Saved by the Light's one of the best things about the class. I should have mentioned Saved by the Light before because I kind of forgot about it. But Saved by the Light, especially in the current meta, is one of the best parts about Holy Paladins. it's essentially a safeguard trinket, if you guys remember that from
Yeah.
BFA, on a 1 minute cooldown, and in the burst meta, that's just incredibly valuable. I mean,
Yeah.
and let's just say a mage is combusting you. Well, every time you get combusted, your health's going down really fast, or Nelly Shaman, like having that Save by the Light proc, gives you a moment to, for your brain to register, oh, I'm in trouble, and it's invaluable. So, if you're playing Holy Pally in threes right now, you're going to be using Save by the Light, always. Like that's just always.
Yeah.
And as far as Judgment of Light, this is a PvE thing. This is something for raids. You only get value if a raid's worth of people are hitting a target. So Judgment of Light is, I think it's a good PvE thing, but it's not something you'd ever consider in Arena.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, Holy Prism was a meme in BFA too. I remember.
Yeah, it's been a meme for a long time.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It kind of reads neat. Like it looks like it has some.
Yeah, no, it looks kind of cool. I remember back in like early WAD, it was like kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's a meme, and so.
Yeah.
All right.
So we did a little bit of talking about this tier already, but we'll just quickly rehash it again. So Fist of Justice, this is your CC tier. Each Holy Paladin, each Holy Power spent reduces the remaining cooldown of Hammer of Justice by 2 seconds. We have Repentance, forces an enemy target to meditate, incapping them for 1 minute, and of course that's the same as Poly duration in PvP settings. And then we have Blinding Light. This emits a dazzling light in all directions, blinding enemies within 10 yards, causing them to wander, disoriented for 6 seconds. Non-holy damage will break the disorient effect.
Yeah. Well, we already kind of touched on on this row. I think one thing I do want to note about Blinding Light that I could have mentioned before was there is that key last sentence with Blinding Light, which is non-holy damage will break this disorient event. So, like, if you Blinding Light someone, you can actually, like, judge them and, like, Holy Shock them and Hammer of Wrath them, and it doesn't break your blind. So you can kind of kill people. And same with, like, Holy Pally sack. Like, if an HPAL, puts Blessing of Sacrifice on their teammate up, and you run over and blind them, that sack is not going to break the Blinding Light damage. And you can actually, like, murder him, kind of. So, just fun little things to look for.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
So, like, the damage you take from your sacrifice is holy damage.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. Neat. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Fun fact of the day.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. Gerissar.
300 IQ stuff right there. That's the stuff That's what I like to hear. All right. Into the next
IQ,
tier.
More like 3K CR, bro.
Oh yeah. So, Andallyn, when are you leveling your Holy Pally?
I already have started. Yeah, he's 53.
Oh, sweet. Okay, next tier, we got Unbreakable Spirit, which reduces the cooldown of your Divine Shield, Divine Protection, and Lay on Hands by 30%. Cavalier, which gives you 2 charges of that wonderful Divine Steed we talked about a little bit earlier. And Rule of Law, which is 2 instant charges, increases the range of your heals by 50% for 10 seconds.
Right. So once again, it's another option. There's only 2 options really here. Rule of Law, well, theoretically kind of cool. It just it doesn't come into play very often. Unbreakable Spirit is probably the go-to in most cases. Having a shorter bubble often matters. Early in the season, I was taking Cavalier because games were just so quick that you often wouldn't. The game would be over by the time the 5-minute mark that the second bubble would occur. So,
wow.
And I still take Cavalier a lot. It's tough to say. The added mobility is really important. In a comp where you need to be the one to kind of lead. Like if you're playing like Rogue Mage Pally, you kind of want to be Cavalier in most cases because you need to kind of lead the charge and get that CC. If you're playing against something that's really going to kill you, and it's going to take a while for your team to get the win, you're probably going to go Unbreakable Spirit. But
Okay.
it's not cut and dry. Those two are definitely both very useful in multiple situations. So, to a new player trying out Holy Pally, I'd recommend you play around both of them, and be comfortable with switching those two around because they're both definitely situationally good.
Good to know. Would you say up against the melee cleave meta that we really kind of saw at the beginning of season 1 here, is Unbreakable Spirit more important, or would you say Cavalier would be more important to get, like, what would be better, to be able to bubble yourself more often, or just be able to get away from these wandering murder machines?
Probably Cavalier, especially if it's a melee versus melee match. Unless you're Cedo and Gorecki, most of the time, melee versus melee is actually a fairly quick game.
Yeah.
And that is going to lead to getting more value out of just having the increased mobility.
Okay. Good to know.
That would be my analysis.
All right.
Cool. Very
Andallyn.
All right, let's talk about this next line. So we have Divine Purpose. Holy Power abilities have a 15% chance to make your next Holy Power ability free and deal 20% increased damage and healing. Very nice. Holy Avenger. Your Holy Power generation is tripled for 20 seconds. Seraphim. The light magnifies your power for 15 seconds, granting 8% haste, crit, and verse. And if you're holy, it just says 12.
Mastery.
12 mastery.
12
Okay.
mastery. Yeah.
Our tooltip from Wowhead was...
You're good.
Right. Yes, okay. Yeah, it's a little wonky, but that's okay.
Hard to read.
Yes.
Okay, so in this tier, it's going to be Divine Purpose 99% of the time. And really 99.9% of the time. You're almost always going to take Divine Purpose. It's just really strong. More wogs, strong, and not only is the wog you get from Divine Purpose free, but it's actually even stronger. It procs a lot. You're pushing wog a lot of value. If you there's some synergy with Divine Purpose and Fist of Justice because the free wog reduces the cooldown in Fist of Justice. And the more wogs you're doing, the more awakenings you're getting. More wogs are great, and that's what Divine Purpose does, and that's kind of the go-to. The 0.01% chance or option that also exists would be never Holy Avenger. Holy Avenger is worthless. Seraphim is kind of fun. So if you're playing a Venti or Holy Paladin and you want to do the most ridiculous damage ever, there's a build you can go with Seraphim and what's the Holy Paladin damage Ashen Hollow. So you go Seraphim, Ashen Hollow. You go this one legendary that lets you shoot out more hammers. You play a badge, and you can just like one shot people with it. It's really fun.
Yeah, I've been hit for like a 22k hammer of wrath.
Yeah, I can see it with Seraphim and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably
from the healer.
Yeah. No, but even like that circumstance, you're playing this really weird suboptimal
right
build. You can only do 4 minutes,
yeah.
And like your healing is really weak because of it. Like, it's probably a little busted in the right situation, but
yeah,
you're really never gonna. It's gonna be really rare that you actually go that build, because another thing that's incredible with HL right now is just how powerful the Kyrian Covenant is. So you're almost always playing Divine Purpose. If you're new to an HPAL, set it and forget it with Divine Purpose. But if you want to
you'll enjoy the procs.
Yeah, if you want to do some meaty stuff, Seraphim with Vampire is funny. But
all right. I like it. 20k freaking. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I hadn't seen that. The biggest ones I saw were like, but this was a few weeks ago. So it was like, I could see it. I could see 20k happening.
All right. All right. Next here we got the Sanctified Wrath. So Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer and also reduces Holy Shot cooldown by 40%. Your Avenging Crusader, so that replaces Avenging Wrath. It's on a 2-minute cooldown, and you become an Ultimate Crusader of Light, increasing your Crusader Strike, Judgment, and auto attack damage by 30%. Crusader Strike and Judgment cooldown 30% faster, and heal up to 3 enemy 3 injured allies for 250% of the damage they deal. Lasts for 20 seconds. And Awakening. So Word of Glory and Light of Dawn have a 15% chance of granting you Avenging Wrath for 10 seconds.
Right.
Wait.
So this touches into, I've been mentioning Awakening throughout the show.
Yeah.
Awakening is kind of the play in almost all situations again. Early on in the season, I remember CD trying to say there were scenarios where Sanctified Wrath was good, but the value you get out of Awakening is just too high. Getting those wings procs means you can also, like, during an Awakening proc, you get to cast Hammer of Wrath twice. So that's basically a free WOG. It's just
Whoa.
it's too valuable, and the added values of Sanctified Wrath being the shorter Holy Shock cooldown, it doesn't really matter that much. Like Holy Shock, in BFA was like our best heal by far, and that's not the case anymore. So you really just want to go. I don't think I ever change these talents. I always go Awakening, and that would be my advice to any new Holy Paladin.
Yeah.
Can I set it and forget it again?
Yeah, Avenging Crusader, you don't need it, and it costs mana. I mean, it's like a big burst of heals when you have it, but like your big burst of heal comes when you push Divine Toll now, and that's kind of
taking
Good
its
to know.
place. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's 50% of your base mana. That's a whack ton of mana to be pressing a button in the middle of a PvP.
It's it's not 50%. Well, I mean, it ends up being, I think, 10% of your 20% of your mana. No, it's 10%. Yeah, it costs 5,000. You have 50,000. So.
Oh, weird. Okay. The Wowhead 2 up I'm looking at said 50% of base mana. I was like, holy moly.
I think base mana is like if you're not holy. I don't know how that math works, but
Yeah, I don't either,
yeah.
but it's some kind of adjustment.
All right.
So.
It's still a lot of mana.
Yeah, it's still a lot.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about this last row. We have the Glimmer of Light, the old Azerite trait. Holy Shock leaves a glimmer of light on the target for 30 seconds. When you Holy Shock, all targets with Glimmer of Light are damaged for 16% of spell power or healed for 38% of spell power. You may have Glimmer of Light on up to 8 targets. We have Beacon of Faith. You mark a second target as a beacon, mimicking the effects of Beacon of Light. Your heals will now heal both of your beacons, but at 30% reduced effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Beacon of Virtue. This replaces your Beacon of Light. You apply a Beacon of Light to your target in 3 injured allies within 30 yards for 8 seconds. An affected ally will be healed for 50% of the amount of your other healing done.
Right. So this is as far as which option to choose, this is another one of those. Probably 98% of the time, 99% of the time, you just want to go with Beacon of Faith. It's better in most situations. And I'll touch into the Beacon of Faith is actually, it's important. There's a lot of stuff kind of to know about how to maximize that ability, but I'll just kind of briefly go into the one scenario where you take Glimmer. Beacon of Virtue is a never. You forget that exists. Glimmer is good in a really rare scenario where your teammates aren't being cleaved. You just know, hey, they're just going to go after this one guy on my team every game. That's all they've been doing. They're never going to switch. And Glimmer gives a little bit of purge protection for that person. So, like, just say maybe you're playing with a mage. This team's only going to tunnel your mage, and you want to offer him some more, protection for his shields or his other buffs. You might take Glimmer in that scenario, but very niche. Beacon of Faith is going to be your go-to in a lot of scenarios, and maximizing your beacons is something that takes a little bit of getting used to for Pallies, because we have a lot of heals that interact with beacon slightly different ways. So, like, if you're casting Holy Light, Flash of Light, and Holy Light, you want to be casting those on beacon targets because they generate holy power. But if you're casting Holy Shocks or Divine Toll or Wogs, in an ideal world, you want to be casting those on the person on your team that does not have a beacon on them, because that's how you would maximize the healing efficiency of beacons. Another advantage of beacon right now is its interaction with Save with the Light. So let's say I'm playing against an RMP that can kill, multiple people on my team. Being able to have a second beacon on my partners that gives them that safeguard proc gives me, more easy. It's more likely that I've got a safeguard proc for the teammates that are vulnerable. So it's helpful to have two.
Fair.
Yeah.
That makes it. Yeah, I could definitely see like once I saw Saved by the Light at the earlier tier, I could see how
right
having and
multiple beacons is
exactly
Yeah.
and 30% reduction isn't that harmful from what I'm hearing. How holy Paladins are.
It doesn't. You don't really think about it because I mean it's 30% less healing, but on 2 targets, right? So the math is what you're actually getting 40% more healing, right? So it's 70 on 2 instead of 100 on 1. So you're getting more healing. So
Exactly. All right. Let's just go over the PvP talents quickly then as well. So let's just make sure I got these straight here. So we got the what we got? So we got avenging. Oh man.
do you want to just do we want to just like list them off and I'll kind of explain the scenario and then
Yeah, I think that'd be best.
Mhm.
So we got avenging light, blessed hands, cleanse the weak, darkest before the dawn. God, I love the sound of that one. Divine favor, divine vision, or hallowed ground, light's grace, spreading the word, and ultimate sacrifice.
So I'll just go down. I'm kind of listing down as I see them on my talent tree here. So
Okay.
the first one happens to be avenging light. This one's not really that useful. It's fun, and I've played around with it a little bit. It can in a scenario where you're fighting against like a melee cleave, and you're just gonna be sitting there bombing holy lights on your teammates. This in combination with light's grace and divine favor can create some buddy scenarios where you do a lot of damage with your holy lights, but often the damage is kind of just pad and doesn't usually contribute to actually getting a kill. So while it's a fun ability, in most scenarios, it's not one you'd be taking in this expansion. The next one is Ultimate Sacrifice. Anyone who's played against a Holy Paladin is probably familiar with how this ability works. You put it on your teammate, they can't die while it's up. So obviously very useful in a lot of different scenarios, especially in a fast meta right now.
And there's nothing that gets around sack, is there?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, like you can kill the Holy Paladin, you can kill his other partner, but
Sure,
it is it is a save. they are safe while sack is on them.
Yeah.
So that's a
if it's all
right. Now, obviously, there are a lot of ways to punish this. The main one being that damage on the Holy Paladin is actually kind of delayed. So you can dump a little bit of damage into the sack, then you switch to the HPAL, and then all the damage you're doing is now hitting with the damage you did before. You almost have like a time bomb effect. And, a very common scenario you'll see is like, all right, the Holy Paladin CC'd, his teammate's about to die, so he has to trinket and use sack. All right, well, he had to trinket and sack. Now now someone stuns the Holy Paladin and starts hitting him. That forces the bubble, and that's a really powerful thing to look for when playing against Holy Paladins.
Yeah.
All right.
If you're more experienced, you might have to think, okay, they're about to stun me. If I trinket, I just have to bubble here before I trinket. Things like that. Yeah. Different interactions with sack. Okay, next talent is Darkest Before the Dawn. I don't think anyone ever uses this one. I think there might be some.
That's too bad. Yeah. It sounded good.
It sounded good when I first saw it in Legion, and it seemed cool. It just doesn't heal for much. Light of the Dawn doesn't go for a ton, and then I think Born Good was like theory crafting. Like there could be some cool interaction with like this and this one legendary and the Maldraxxus Covenant. It seems interesting, but it's a lot of theory crafting for something that's probably not worth picking anyway. So that's all I really have to say on that one.
All right.
Spreading the word is another scenario. It could be interesting. I might have to try this one against Affliction Locks. I haven't used it, but Blessing of Freedom cleanses all of your allies of slows when you push Freedom. There could be a scenario against Affliction Locks where that could be interesting. Because Affliction Locks, obviously, everyone just gets stuck, right? That Affliction Legendary, you're all just RP. But once again, super niche. I have not used it once this expansion. Just reading it now on my theory craft a little bit with it, but it's probably not something you need to worry about, especially if you're a newer player. Blessed Hands is a big one. So this is something that gives you 2 bops, 2 freedoms. In a scenario where you don't necessarily want to take Light's Grace because you don't see yourself casting a lot of Holy Lights, you might take Blessed Hands. Blessed Hands, just, you get a lot of value out of 2 bops. And 2 bops is very strong. I almost always take this against RMP. Kind of a comp where I find myself bopping myself out of stuns a lot. Obviously, out of blinds. Very, very useful tool. Definitely one of the main 4 that HPOs are using in most games.
Yeah. I miss when it would give you 2 sacks.
I mean, I think it's a little bit.
That's fair. Yeah.
That'd be a bit OP.
It was. It was.
When we had it, it was kind of shitty because when it gave us 2 sacks, Holy Paladins' whole design was just all right. They have sack, so their healing is going to be really weak. So we were completely designed to only kind of play around having sack, and I'm kind of happy it's only 1 sack. To be honest, I wouldn't even mind if we had 0 sacks and it was just balanced around not having ultimate sack. But that's sort of where that is. Let's see here. The next one is Divine Visions. This is a useful talent, but if you're playing against Shadow Priest or a Lock, you probably want Divine Visions. If not, that's kind of it. Divine Visions is also known as Shadow Resora. Reduces the damage from Shadow dots by 15%. Pretty cut and dry. Pretty clear scenario where it's useful.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cleanse the Weak. You take this talent if you want to make Ellie Shamans really mad. That's the main scenario you take it. When you cleanse Flame Shock, the Ellie Shaman on the other team curses you out, and that's it. You Cleanse the Weak is really good against Ellie Shamans because removing Lava Burst really hurt, or Lava Shock really reduces their damage. Flame Shock, I'm sorry, yes. So Cleanse the Weak is a big thumbs up against Ellie's. You'll get some hate whispers. You'll smile. It's going to be a good time.
Wouldn't that be good against rogues as well because poisons?
Not really, because they reapply them so much and then it just doesn't matter that much to get rid of poisons.
Okay.
Usually you can heal through... rogues are all just hit and run right now. So, it's just not that meaningful right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I didn't even... There's that other aspect of Cleanse the Weak where if you heal with a Holy Light, it cleanses diseases and poisons. Just... I guess that could be situationally good against priests too, but probably not worth it. Hallowed Grounds. Hallowed Grounds is something I've taken a little bit against Affliction Locks. It's that same idea. When you drop Consecrate, it reduces all the slows. If you're playing against locks, you're pretty slow.
Perma-slow,
so,
yeah.
Hallowed Ground, I kind of like taking Hallowed Ground against Affliction Locks so that I can free to my teammate and then just kind of control my own movement through consecrating the ground. So, very situational. Don't really need to worry about it if you're new, but can be helpful.
Good to know.
Divine Favor. Divine Favor just got nerfed, but it's still pretty good. Definitely something that everyone and their mom is looking to purge kick you on. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. But a faster cast, double strength, Holy Light can heal for quite a bit. And pretty much top the team up if you have wings and crits. So still a very useful talent. Anyone who kind of arenas is familiar with how it works, and it's kind of how, you take it in most scenarios. You don't take it in you don't take it in scenarios where you think other things are more important, or if you think that you're just going to always you don't think you'll be able to find a scenario where you won't get purged on it.
Yeah.
Then Light's Grace. Light's Grace is something you probably take against Cleaves. Somewhere where you just need to be able to maximize your HPS. And if you see, if you can't keep your teammates alive with instant cast heals and need to get bigger heals off, that's when Light's Grace comes into play. It's also kind of like a more mana efficient way to heal because Holy Lighting is your most mana efficient way of Holy Light is your most mana efficient heal in scenarios where you can't get away with, where you need to heal more than just WOG.
Yeah.
So. It's useful in that scenario. The other aspect of Light's Grace, the shield.
Yeah.
You don't cast that many like Holy Lights ever in a row, so the damage reduction doesn't come that largely into play. Sorry, I've been talking a lot here, so I didn't mean. Did you
No,
have
no,
something
no,
to
no.
It's good. That was
You're
perfect.
saving my voice. I appreciate.
And that's the whole list.
Nice.
Very nice.
No, I really appreciate that. I'm actually kind of surprised because I thought Light's Grace reading it looked like it had like that little baby bubble. It looked like it was a bit better than what you said. But I guess 5% in the grand scheme of what we're getting for burst right now really isn't a lot of.
Well, it's also the buff only lasts 6 seconds.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I recall. Like, even if I was doing a really good job at maintaining that buff, like if I was going up against something like a TSG, I remember I would just get like CC'd once, and it would just fall.
right.
So
Well, and
it's like-
Holy has a 2.2 second cast time, right? So
Yeah.
it's unless unless you basically push it every 3 seconds, which is every other
And
global,
not getting
essentially.
kicked.
Right. You're not going to be able to maintain that buff. So
No.
that buff is kind of a nice quality of life aspect of it, but it's definitely not the greatest part about the increased heal is kind of
Yeah.
the main draw.
All right, makes sense. Well, let's move away from talents and start talking about the whole bread and butter that we're seeing now in Shadowlands with the covenants and conduits.
Mhm.
So and soulbinds and that. So I think you said earlier, it sounds like Kyrian is like the go-to covenant.
If you're not Kyrian, you're kind of trolling. It's kind of Venthyr is fun, and in fact, when the expansion first started in my main pally, I went Venthyr because I thought it seemed interesting. But
Yeah.
the Divine Toll is just insane. It basically tops your whole team when you push it, and it gives you full holy power. It gives you 5 holy power when you push it. So
Oh my
it's
gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, like on a 1 minute cooldown, you essentially top your whole team, and then you have, 2 wogs. Then you push wog, and then you have each other another holy shock available. So then you wog, holy shock, wog. So you shoot out 2 wogs plus an AOE land hands. That can also those wogs can proc wings. Those wogs can proc more wogs. It's
Yeah. that's
every 1
wild.
minute you basically just
Wow.
everyone's okay. So
It's on 1 minute cooldown.
in a cooldown. It's honestly something I thought was going to get nerfed. I thought that would be a good direction. I think the reason they don't want to nerf it is for PvE reasons, or I guess they're really reluctant to nerf their covenants because the time commitment we all put in. But
Yeah.
there's a list of reasons for probably why they don't want to nerf certain covenants. But Kyrian is incredibly strong for Holy Paladin. I'll leave it there. And definitely the go-to for HPALs. As far as conduits, we don't have them fully unlocked, so I haven't tested them all out. I think the best one in PvP prop might be Mykonos, just because he has that ability Soul Steel Clamps, which reduces your stun duration if you stand still for 5 seconds. So, I mean, my brain instantly goes to RMP. It's like, well, if I'm fighting RMP, I'm probably going to be sitting still when they want to stun me because I'm usually polyed or sapped before they want to stun me. So, being stunned for 30% less is, incredibly huge. So, I'd imagine Mykonos is the best. Right now, I've been using Clea. Clea is obviously still very good. But that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. Plus, the Kyrian gives you that vial, so that's an extra heal.
Yeah, it helps, especially with the meta. Almost all healers are using BM trinkets. So the vial stacks the BM trinket.
Yeah.
It can definitely save you in a lot of situations.
Yeah. True.
But the main draw is that Divine Toll.
Yeah.
And then Venthyr is fun, as I said. There's that one really niche scenario. If you really like doing 2s, Venthyr might actually be better in 2s because doing damage is so important in 2s.
Mm-hmm.
And Venthyr does a lot of damage. There are legendary options you can take that lead to Venthyr hitting hard. Vanguard's Momentum is one that you would take, which gives you 2 Hammer of Wrath stacks or charges. so you can like double tap people for double powered hammers in your then to your covenant. It's fun, but if you're a hardcore 3v3er, you're gonna want to be Kyrian.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's good reasoning there. Just kind of curious. Sorry, just to make sure. So for 3v3, definitely Kyrian. 2's probably the same, and
Two's
rated
pretty aware of
rated battlegrounds. Okay, Venthyr for 2's maybe, and then rated battlegrounds probably Kyrian, just for the throughput, or Venthyr actually, because then you can.
in rated battlegrounds, I would guess you're probably taking Kyrian. Although you could even get away with Night Fae potentially in rated battlegrounds, because I think mobility really important in rated battlegrounds? It's not something I do a ton
It
of.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Night Fae blink actually would come into play for RBGs.
Yeah,
the
I
buff,
think the biggest thing with the Night Fae mobility lately is the fact that you can blink out of the root beam from Boomkins.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
Sea
and
was
another
doing
thing
that with his Resto Sham actually up against
Yes.
Chanimals on his Boomkin. So that was fun to watch.
Yeah, that
if
was
you were
pretty
watching the AWC.
another thing, I mean, you can get Night Fae could be cool in BGs also because once again I don't do a ton of them, but you have that ability Blessing of Summer, which is kind of like Power Infusion on a 3-minute cooldown. So if you have like a big, I don't know, whoever's taking the Berserking buff on your team, whoever's the big damage dealer, you can give that player Blessing of Summer, and they can really pop off. So I can see getting away with being a Night Fae in RPGs, but once again, if you just want that maximum burst healing output, that's all about Kyrian.
All right. Good. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess conduits. Is there any specific conduits that that are like you need to make sure you farm these conduits?
Yeah, it's pretty annoying. This one conduit's really important called Shielding Words. I have farmed it 8 weeks in a row on my main and still haven't gotten it because it only drops off Kael'thas. Thanks, Blizzard. Yeah. In fact, this season I'm actually pushing my alt because I just had better RNG on my alt.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shielding Words is a really big one. Shielding Words basically gives it doesn't account for overhealing, but it increases basically the healing of your wogs. But any healing you do with your wog also applies a 20% shield. So let's say if I healed you for 10k and that healed you, you were missing 10k, then you would get an effective 2k shield. So it's just in a way of thinking about it, your wog is 20% better with this conduit.
Yeah.
So really important.
Well, does that count overhealing? So
it does not count overhealing.
Okay.
So you can't wog yourself prior to getting stunned. It does not account for overhealing, but still, I mean, in a lot of scenarios, 20% more healing on your wog on someone who's not 100% HP. Very important. Big deal.
Yep.
Not cool to tie it to a boss 5 bosses in that most people don't pug, or it takes a long time to get to a pug.
Yeah.
Frustration. Anyways, other than that,
tell me how you really feel about that, Vindi.
The ring clarity. Generally speaking, you're going to be running two potency conduits, so you're probably just going to run focus light, which just increases the crit chance of your holy shock, which is just, especially with Kyrian, those holy shocks are what come out of your divine toll. So your holy shock healing plus crits give you more divine purpose procs, not divine purpose procs, infusion of light procs. So it's a good one to have, and then you also want to use whichever conduit is tied to your your covenant ability. In most cases, that's ring clarity, which is part of the reason why you get that lay on hands effect from divine toll. It has a chance to proc and just do that massive heal. The other ones are all more. The other ones are all much more situational. Wouldn't say you have to have any of the other ones. Just but we don't need to go into the other ones. Good in some situations, but also all fairly self-explanatory.
All right. And legendaries.
Yes.
Legendaries, yes. Main one, Shock Barrier, is the one that you should go to, but if you're one of those people, there's also the one that you probably should talk about. The what's it called? It is called. I'm just looking it up real quick. Where is it?
Which
The
one are you
Reign of
thinking
the
about?
Endless Kings. This is
right,
the one that gives
front
you
one. Yes.
front one
Yeah.
that gives you a shield wall, and there's a conduit that gives you a free wog whenever it procs. I think every paladin in the game is hoping this one gets nerfed, so it's really good.
And
And
non-paladin, yeah.
yeah, everyone wants this gone.
Yeah.
I haven't built it yet. If it's still in the game when the season ends, I probably will have to, but I don't want to. Really strong. Basically makes it way harder to die without bubbling, and save you in a lot of scenarios. As I said, there's a conduit that gives you a free wog, whatever this procs. So really powerful. No one wants it to be good though. So, if you built, this is.
Yeah.
I didn't need it to get 3K. You probably don't either. Don't this is my campaign. Let's just not build this one because it's just not good for the game. The one you should probably build is going to be. I mean, you don't need it. You don't need this. Just get rid of this garbage. This is something every Holy Paladin would be happy to see nerfed. Because it would also mean Reds get nerfed, which is very welcome.
And pro.
Shock Barrier is the one that you should probably build. This is essentially a Sacred Shield. It's just a little bit more throughput. It increases the healing, or it gives you a small shield on anyone that you've Holy Shocked in the last 18 seconds. It's nothing game-breaking, but it does help. It does add up over the course of the game. It usually accounts for 10 to 12% of my healing. It's a good legendary to go for. And then there are two other ones that are worth mentioning. Safu's sort of worth mentioning. It's not Holy Power specific. There are scenarios where you may want that.
Yeah, I think I've just putting that on pretty much every class that we talk about, just because if you're orc, you should have Sefus.
Sure.
Although
it can't be in Valley, but
yeah,
it's good.
I think somebody was saying that it also stacks with
Pardon
me?
The trinket?
No, with one of the alliance racials, I think Gnome.
Does it?
I think somebody was saying I need to verify that.
I thought Gnome's racial was just they broke out of roots. Do they have another one that I'm not familiar with?
Maybe. No, I think that's maybe I'm misunderstanding it then.
Yeah, I
I
don't
was having
think
a conversation with somebody and
it's possible. I mean, I don't play Alliance, so I'm not familiar with every single one of their racials. But let's go back to Paladin legendaries.
Yeah.
The other two legendaries to consider are Vanguard's Momentum, especially if you're playing Venthyr. Vanguard's Momentum, I think, actually has a lot of potential, especially potentially later in the season. This gives you 2 stacks of Hammer of Wrath. So in a scenario where you pop wings, you can double tap someone. If you're a Venthyr, that's you can really do some wild damage with it. And every time you cast a Hammer of Wrath, your holy damage is increased by 3%, stacking up to 3 times per Hammer of Wrath. So that means you can throw also larger judgments. Fun one, definitely viable in 2s. Potentially viable if you're playing Spell Cleaves late in the season. I wouldn't be surprised to see this one come into play. But right now, not a lot of people are using it. And then in a similar vein, there's Mad Paragon, which instead of giving you 2 Hammer of Wraths, just increases the damage of your Hammer of Wrath by 30%. And casting Hammer of Wrath extends the duration of Avenging Wrath by a second. I think there could be situational use for that, but at this point in time, not a lot of people are using it. If you want to just go a safe default, go with Shock Barrier. If you want to be that guy, you can go ahead and take the Reign of the Endless Kings, and no one will feel bad for you when it gets nerfed. And then there are the 2 Hammer of Wrath legendaries that are worth considering, but that's sort of the main overview, I would say, for Holy Paladin legendaries.
All right. Which piece do I craft? Because this.
I would try Shock Barrier. Shock Barrier is the one.
which like a slot?
Like,
Oh,
like wrist, chest, head.
Normally you go
I
for
did
the.
band.
Yeah.
I did bands because for shock barrier it was either feet or legs,
Yeah.
and I did legs because
The main.
it's a higher weighted stat, and you can get a higher item up on it. That was my rationale. I think that's pretty much what most people are doing.
Smart. Okay. One just because we're talking about stats and that. What about what stats are you looking for?
Verse. So I mean, like right now, it's the stat weight would be verse greater than like. I always think of it as like an arrow. So it's verse is greater than crit, which is equal to haste, and then you avoid mastery like the plague. Yep. Mastery sucks.
Okay.
Sounds
interesting, because there was a talent that increased your mastery by 10% or 12%. So
Seraphim, but yeah, but it also increases all of your stats.
Okay. Do you have any? Sorry, do you have any soft caps that you're trying to aim for?
I don't think those matter that much yet. I still think right now we just want to get as much verse as we can, because even if the soft cap was hit with the PvP set bonus, I think the verse is just going to outscale that. Okay. So no real soft caps that you need to worry about.
Okay, so you're not aiming for like minimum 14% crit or something like that, or okay. All right, good to know. It makes it really easy to gear.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Just don't.
That's right.
Most PvP first, and then when you look at it, you're like, does it have mastery? No. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, throw it away.
Yep.
All right.
Easy go test.
Pretty much.
That's actually that's really easy.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Andallyn, why don't we get into strategies here?
Sure. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, let's talk strategies. So, Vindi, you said you've run all sorts of different compositions. Tell us a little bit about maybe what you would recommend for someone who's starting to pick up the Holy Paladin. Maybe some of the comps that you're going to feel like the Holy Paladin fits really well in. Maybe what you enjoy, or maybe some comps that might be a little bit more challenging for the Holy Paladin.
Sure. So if you're just starting an HPAL out, you can't go wrong with something like Turbo or Ret Warrior. Something that you kind of have some more forgiving DPS that will help you out. That can kind of help keep the team alive. Turbo is a great comp to start out as. Turbo and Ret Warrior would be the two I would say. More straightforward melee cleaves. Great starting comps, and also still, I mean, I think that's Ret Warrior is probably the best comp in the game for ladder. So not only are they good for beginners, they're good for the best as well.
Yeah.
More complicated comps are also more fun in my opinion. Like I've played God comp this season, and at times that comp felt pretty challenging to pull off, but it felt pretty rewarding when we did pull it off. So I like playing God comp quite a bit. It's probably the most fun comp I've played this season. But I've played pretty much every comp you can think of.
It's been
Fire,
a while
Windwalker.
since I've seen people playing God comp.
God comp's a lot of fun. It's about setup, so you kind of have to create your win condition.
Right.
Then there's obviously Windwalker Fire is incredible. It feels like you're just running people over with that comp. I mean, right now HPALs are in just a great spot where they can kind of play almost any comp you can think of.
Yeah.
So
and we also included Walking Dead, the Windwalker DK, as another good option. What do you
Walking
think?
Dead is a good comp. It is probably a little harder to play. It's less forgiving than something with an enhancer or a
with off heals, you're saying? Yeah, okay.
Not only no off heals, but I mean neither of those classes ever cast. So every kick is going to be directed at you. So it's still, it's a really top tier comp. It's just, it's not as forgiving as some of the other ones are. So it might be a little harder for a newer player.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay, gotcha. Good perspective. No. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And then, so when you're playing with a melee comp, just to kind of continue in the strategies here before we move on, Gerissar.
No, you're good.
What are you looking to do as an HPAL? Are you looking to stay with your team if you're playing with a melee composition? Or are you trying to stay back at a pillar at 40-yard range? what would you tell someone?
It's positioning is one of the things that takes the most amount of hours to understand in the game. So it's definitely not a cut and dry answer there.
Yeah.
At certain moments in the game, you're gonna want to, a simple way of thinking about it is, let's say I'm playing turbo against another turbo. I want to be I want to try to play at a location. Well, maybe let's say I'm not turbo versus turbo. Let's say I'm playing ret warrior against turbo. I want to be at a location where I can line of sight the hex casts if my teammates can't kick it, and there would be scenarios where that happens, right? Because a warrior can intervene his shaman, and for the next 6 seconds, that shaman can freely cast hex. So I need to make sure that I'm at a pull so that I can not get hex during that window. But there will also be, there will be moments later in the game where we may be ahead, and I think, hey, if I push for CC right now, we can get more than they'll get out of me if I push in.
Right.
So you want to push in, get your CC on the enemy healer. You probably play Blinding Light in this situation. You hodge to the healer, you blind the healer. Hopefully you get a trinket, and you get out. And then you want to stay away from him until those cooldowns are back up, so you can gain more from being near him. It's kind of. I hope that was kind of like a good high level idea on positioning.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things that it's like I agree. The positioning is tough in that regard, but I think I enjoyed being able to learn more about positioning through playing Holy Paladin. I felt like it was a really good and it made sense because it makes a lot of physical sense when you're controlling your positioning by like, hey, I'm gonna blow a mobility gap closer here as a healer to get to where I need to be to lane my crowd control, or the positioning kind of phases, if you will, seem to just make a lot of organic sense. So
it can get very chaotic.
Yes, it can.
The whole, it all makes the Mike Tyson quote, right? Everything is really easy. Everyone's got to play until, there's a fire mage combusting on their face.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
instinct kind of kicks in. Yeah.
Right. Because let's say you're playing a caster, like the positioning, if you're playing with two high mobility classes will completely be different than if you're playing with two low mobility classes, right?
Yeah.
The idea of, I want to line of sight the enemy healer. Well, that might be important, but it's more important that I stay within line of sight of my lower mobility teammates. So it varies from comp to comp what you're playing against. So that's
sure.
It's a lot of fun, but it's something that, I know my positioning is still not mastered. I look at the positioning of better pallies like Brain or Dureki or Cedo, and it's like, wow, these guys are in the right spot, and they just always know, and it just takes a lot of hours to get that knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I think we brought up I think you brought up a lot of good, just kind of thinking points or thought points of, to consider if you were, analyzing your own gameplay to say, okay, well, does this position make sense? Or, yeah, maybe you're right. I haven't thought about that. Maybe I do play with some low mobility classes. Maybe I am pushing away too much because, you'll hear the popular phrase like, yo, don't line your healer. But if your healer is like running across the, it's like, well, whose fault is it? So I think those are really good points that you bring up. So something definitely worth considering. So, all right. Gerissar?
I think that's probably one of the hardest things is trying to decide or figure out do that quick math. Is me pushing in going to be worth it? Am I going to get more out of what I lose?
Yeah.
And that's that experience part you're talking about.
Yeah, I was playing with a very good mage not too long ago, and he kind of compared it to chess, right? It's like, if you think about like cooldowns, like a chess piece, right? Like everything has a score, and if I push in right now, what cooldowns am I going to use compared to what he uses?
On your knight, yes.
Right. Okay. What's the value of the cooldowns that we use to make this happen? Yeah. Cooldown they used to not die, and that's kind of how he thinks about it. And I think it's a kind of a cool way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our friend Winstead used to say that. He used to say PvP is like mixing chess with NASCAR. Like, super fast chess. I guess. Yeah, speed chess. I would say just for a feel for this, then thinking about how you're talking about it, would you say to properly play a Holy Pellet, you have to have more of an aggressive attitude, in that on that playing board then? Just
don't think
because
so.
you have to be aggressive enough to be able to take that risk to run in and go into the Hodge or to go into the blinding light or to get or even get into the scrum a bit, right? You have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, but that applies to all healers, right? I mean, any healer for the most part that wants to, all healers, once you get to higher level play, at certain times need to be able to make aggressive plays. So I wouldn't say that's exclusively a Holy Paladin thing.
Okay.
I think, if you want to be successful as a healer, you need to be able to know there are scenarios where you need to push it. I mean, and granted, there are some matchups. I remember in prior expansions, I would fight certain comps where I knew if I just sit back and never push, we can't lose. So you don't necessarily.
Sure.
It just varies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you need to be aggressive to be a Holy Paladin. No, I think you can make more like Brain. There's an example. Brain is the most passive player I've ever played against in my life. He will just sit back and wait for you to go somewhere and die. And that team is incredibly frustrating to play against because they are just the most patient people in the world. They just sit back, they wait, and
just punish you immediately.
Eventually, you're like, well, crap. This team does better in dampening. We need to try to make a play. You step out of bounds for a second, and you're dead. So, no, they're really great at what they do. But that is an example of a team. They are really passive, and I mean, in my opinion, they're the best team in North America right now.
Yeah.
Fair. I'd say the scoreboard agrees with you there.
I would as well. Yes.
They're great players.
So I need to understand. So aside from kicking you in Holy Light and then bursting on you, is there any other way to kill you as a Holy Pally?
Sure. I mean, you can train a Holy Paladin down because so at first it seems like, wow, you're never going to kill this guy, right? Because he's got all of his wogs and everything. But that does eventually
lay on hands, all that other stuff. Yeah.
Right, but eventually that runs out. And I mean, you can, like, I fought in an RMP today. Their strategy was go me every single time. And in a 7-minute game, they never tried to kill anyone but me.
Mm-hmm. And
it worked 1 out of 3 games. It's just, you can absolutely blow up a Holy Paladin in a stun chain. Combust Mage can kill, a Mage Combusting can kill anything.
Yeah.
A Ret Paladin can kill anything. A Ret Paladin can one-shot me in any situation. That's her. That's
very
really
strong. Yeah.
So Rets. I mean, there are multiple scenarios as a Holy Paladin. I put my hands in the air when I play against Rets because, as soon as you're Hodge, you're dead 2 seconds into it from full. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Holy Paladins. Often the best strategy against Holy Paladins right now is actually to kill the Holy Pally. When I play God Comp, you just blow up Holy Paladins, stun silence, they're dead. Holy Paladins definitely die.
All right, that's okay. I thought it was a little bit harder than that. Thinking about between the shields and the wogs and the lay on hand and just everything, right? But
you'd be surprised how many games, even at high ratings, you'll win with a Combust Mage landing a meteor on someone's head.
Yeah. The
damage is really, really fast. Gurecki and Sidu and Brain, they make it look pretty easy, but on Live Ladder, people don't react as well as that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is the fact that the Holy Pally toolkit makes it very difficult for you to kill his teammates when you include Sack in some of these other and typically you keep your beacons on your teammates, right?
You cycle them.
You cycle them, yeah. But I mean, typically, yeah,
usually you're playing most comps that you're playing. There's like if you're playing with a Shadow Priest, for example, your Shadow Priest probably isn't going to get killed ever. And even if he is, he's got he's got ways of not dying instantly. So if I'm playing like God Comp, for example, I'll probably beacon on myself and my mage.
Sure, but nonetheless, I think you negate a few different. There's a lot less walls to go through if you attack the Holy Paladin directly, as opposed to just attacking the Holy Paladin's teammate. Right. So,
a lot of times, Pally having a trinket doesn't even save him. So it's like Pally's got bubble. That's it. All right, we have combustion. He's just dead. That happens. That's definitely something we've all said. I've said in 3 sessions. He doesn't have bubble. Yeah, just blow everything. There's no way he lives.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm. Kill the Paladin. That's what he win.
Train the pink.
Pretty much.
Right.
Careful. Yeah.
Well, you always do that, right? You see the shaman, you train the blue, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Now
Yeah.
now you just train the pink.
Yeah, I'm just being.
Yeah, I know. Andallyn,
This is a very friendly show. Anyways,
That's right. It is. All right.
Talking about World of Warcraft.
So let's talk about our favorite question to ask, which
yes,
I think we definitely did. I can't remember what our answers were from last time we talked about this, but our favorite question. So, what is the only one thing you would change? All right. The scenario is you call up the devs and or they call you up, frankly, and they're saying, Vindi, listen, we need you to tell us what you would like to change. We've been given permission by the World of Warcraft gods to change anything. It can literally be anything. It can be impossible to change or whatever, but it can only be one thing.
Sure. Holy Paladin feels a lot of fun to play right now. So there aren't that many things I'd actually like to change right now. I think if I could change anything right now, I would say let's go ahead and delete that Prop Alley Legendary.
He's gonna nerf himself. This is
Holy,
first.
I think Holy Paladins in a great spot right now. Yeah. I'm worried about nerfs. I'm sure we're gonna get some. I'm hoping they don't over nerf us. But if I could change anything right now, I mean, I know this is kind of a waste of my god power to get to have anything, but I think we don't need anything right now. I think Holy Paladins are in a wonderful spot right now, and the only change I would do to HPAL at the moment would be to, get rid of that Prop Pile Legendary, and then probably just buff up some of the other healers so that I can continue playing the class that I enjoy, and hopefully it doesn't get nerfed into obliterate, out of existence, which I'm worried could happen.
All right. I was surprised by that, actually. I didn't think you were going to actually nerf yourself.
Yep, I nerfed myself.
Wow.
That's a first.
Okay. I agree.
So, okay.
Okay.
Very cool. Gerissar, you got yours?
Yeah.
Where do you want me to go?
No, I do have mine. I want Holy Prism in a PvP circumstances to create a zone of denial. So do something like Ring of Peace does.
Nice.
So it zaps them, but when it zaps them, it pushes them out of the ring as well. So reduce the range on it. It has a 40-yard range, so it has to obviously get tightened in. But but when you drop it, you drop this hammer down, and then then you'll have something else to choose from on that one tier. Give it some love.
Makes sense.
Nice.
How about you there, Andallyn?
I want. I'm so glad you picked Holy Prism because I was actually working all of my thoughts around Light's hammer. So, because I wanted something cool to be from that. I was honestly thinking, I was like, I mean, I love playing HPAL, and I don't care if HPALs are broken. I thoroughly enjoy them. So, I would say Light's hammer. Light's hammer should be changed so that it's not a targeted area where you just drop this useless waste of an ability. It's it's something that like is more of akin to like Thor's hammer or something like that, where you could get a ranged hammer of justice.
That'd be kind of cool.
A ranged hammer of justice on a 1-minute cooldown or something like that. Or
summon this giant hammer out of the sky that claps, that just bonks someone on the head.
Yeah.
Definitely could be fun.
Yeah.
What about if it used that that ability from the Torghast where they do the rebounding blades, where they throw the blades out and then it comes back?
Yeah, that'd be something like that. Would be really neat too.
Okay, I like it.
I was also thinking too, to where like you could almost control someone's positioning with it.
You only get one, bud.
I know. And that's what I was. That's what I was considering, right?
Yes, something like a wrap though, that can kind of bog someone down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's instead of talking about what could be, let's talk about what actually happened and get into the news, and then we'll roll this out.
Sounds good.
Sure.
All right. Who ordered up an extra large can of whoop ass?
All right. Thank you to Mr. Manastorm for our transition right there. I know you guys couldn't hear it, but I assure you.
Millhouse.
Yes.
He will be there in the edits.
Yes.
All right. So we mentioned that this has been happening. The MDI Cup #1 happened back on the 24th of January. And big congrats to Perplexed for winning that tournament and taking the first place. And just last weekend, there was another AWC Cup, which was Skillcap EU took first place for EU, obviously. And Cowie took the first place for NA.
Kawhi.
I'm gonna get that
It's
wrong.
okay. Yeah.
Even the casters get it wrong, so I don't feel
it's
so
okay.
bad.
It's okay.
Everyone probably respects you more for mispronouncing it. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no real way to pronounce it. Let's be honest. I mean, it's just.
I think there is a proper way. I just don't know it.
Is there though? Yeah. Yeah.
According to Twitch chat, there was always a proper way to say it.
True. Yeah. So also worth mentioning though, Perplexed came out slugging on MDI. I know that we don't really delve into that a whole lot here, but I mean, even across the whole caster desk and of most people who follow it closely, people were expecting Echo, previously Method. They were expecting them to take the whole thing. Like they were because I mean they'll talk about how the difference between like Echo is just so much further ahead than it seems like the rest of the pack is much like it's kind of like in a horse race where one is much further in first place and then like second through fourth are like just really close. And so shout out to Perplex. They definitely played their hearts out, came away with the gold. So.
And I do want to point out for anybody who didn't catch the second cup of the AWC, there were some very interesting prop paladin plays over on the EU.
Yeah,
with Team Creed. And I didn't see this. Somebody else told me about it. I think it was anyway. It was very interesting. They actually won by training down the prop pally. But they got him by doing a mind control, which then the Holy Pally bopped him, which then put him in forbearance. So then when he came out, then they were able to kill him. He couldn't bubble himself.
Yep.
Yeah, we used to do that. I used to do that a lot. Early BFA, we used to call it moving a pally.
Yeah, Vindi, you're the one who told me about how you could do that, and then I started doing that. I was like, except I was doing it at like 1800, but
and I was pulling it off a decent rating, and it's a very fun strategy, and you feel great when you pull it off. Mm-hmm. It was awesome to see it in the tournament, so very fun.
Yeah, it was. I do a little slow golf cap. That does.
Well played.
All right. So congratulations to them. And then, like I said, Flark hosted another tournament on the 24th. So quick congrats to Jisk, Nick the Druid, and Lays for winning the $150 prize for first place there. And over at Ready Raider, they sponsored a 1v1 on the Classic Tournament realm on the 31st. And Corleonix won the $100 prize on that. So that was I love the name of it. The tournament name was Bob Sunday Fun Day. So, yeah,
Bob Salami's Fun Day.
Yeah. And did you guys hear about the hot fixes? I think they kind of slid on the radar there. It wasn't really said much about.
Last second.
Yeah.
They were interesting. They were just trying to offset, right? It looks like they did some buffs, and they just wanted to offset the buffs for classes that didn't really need the buffs.
So obviously a lot of the buffs were for the PvEs to bring up some of the low-lying classes on the PvE side. The interesting thing is typically when they do that, when you have the outliers on the PvP side, it's almost like a direct counter buff. So it's like, okay, increased 5%. But reduced 5% in PvP. This one though, it was quite interesting to me since, case in point, arms warriors, which have a very strong toolkit, they increase the damage straight across the board by 3%. But then Master Commander, their PvP talent, which normally reduces Rallying Cry from a 3-minute cooldown down to a 1-minute cooldown, it only reduces it down to a 2-minute cooldown now. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So Arms Warriors are now going to do more damage straight across the board, and the counter to that was a PvP talent to reduce Rallying Cry. It only reduces it by 60 seconds. I think part of that is then that doesn't have Rallying Cry available for every 1-minute go, which I guess
that was a good change. Warrior's toolkit is current. I mean, if you ask any warrior, they'll be like, they should have just nerfed Intervene. Why'd they have to touch my Rallying Cry?
Yeah.
Rallying Cry was too strong. 30-minute, essentially, or 1-minute cooldown on that. Fair. It was, especially with everything else they have.
Yeah.
No one's dying on a Warriors team if the Warriors not succeed.
Yeah,
so
the Warrior's a healer.
I mean, the Warrior can absorb, basically make you immune to half the classes in the game's damage for 6 seconds. Heal you for 30 seconds, then he can reflect damage and then disarm and stun. Warriors didn't need 1-minute rally. Yeah. So this was, in my opinion, a welcome change. I'm sure there may be some Warriors who are going to give me some heat over that may hear this, but it was a welcome change.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
And looking at it that way, that makes a lot of sense. I guess from my understanding and from when we talked to Smexon there a few weeks ago, just how strong the toolkit was. I don't know if this is going to be something that makes or breaks. I guess if anything, all it does, it just means now they're going to have Rallying Cry for every other combust.
This will, I mean, I would say this is a net positive for Warriors compared to the buff. And I mean, if anything, it just means that maybe some Warriors might take other talents in some situations. Warriors are going completely fine.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, I think that makes a good point. You mentioned that with the Holy Paladin change as well. I think that's always a good idea when a talent is reduced to the point where it's no longer the only choice on a tier, but now it's like, I could choose this or this because, situation.
Yeah, that's good. It's not a, wow, they take this every single game. It's probably too good.
Exactly. Then just another one. So Frost Death Knights, they got straight across the board 5% increase. But on PvP side, Chill Streak was reduced by 10%. So I know Chill Streak was pretty strong. I don't know. As far as I understood, though, Frost Death Knight damage was a little weak. So I say this is probably a net positive.
Yeah, from who I've talked to, I mean, I played with DKs that don't even take Chill Streak some games. So
okay.
This is a net positive, I'm certain. Sidu is currently saying it's not, but I think that's a little just some bias there. I think DKs are fine. I think this is a net positive, so.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I do know some people were concerned because, well, as we said, consistent damage is healable, as the burst damage is where you get the kills. And Chill Streak is their one burst-ish.
I mean, I've seen Obliterate sit for 11k. So this increases that obliterate damage.
Yeah, good point.
Plus, I think their total damage done, right? I mean, it's 10% less, but it's 10% of 105%. So it's not. It's a net positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good point. All right, and then Demon Hunters 3% straight across the board. Beastmasters and Survivals both got 5% straight across. Frost Mages 3%. Assassin Rogues 5%, Enhancement Shaman 3%, Destro Warlocks 5%, and Fury Warriors as well got a 3% buff, but as well also had that Master Commander nerf. So
yeah,
I think me personally, as a Necrolord Frost DK, I'm very happy about the other change they made. Just last week, where now you can do fleshcraft in the starting or the prep areas for battlegrounds and arenas, which that was nice.
Sense. Yeah, it's definitely a quality of life thing.
Yeah, it was a pain in the butt trying to do that and then get pumped out the pipe in Dalaran sewers or off of
Carrying
the
Empyrean domain.
yeah,
Yeah.
Imperial domain. Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah.
And one other, this happened just after the first AWC Cup, but for Convoke, it won't cast Full Moon in PvP. You can still get triple Star Surge, but you just won't get a full moon.
Yep. Thank goodness.
And
That's a welcome change.
I think that's about it for the PvP stuff. Oh, sorry, one other one. This was, I think, a good. So they had the whole on twos. They had changed when dampening starts. Or not when it starts, but it originally started with you start at 20% dampening. They removed that. They kind of reverted it. Now it apparently starts with 20% dampening in twos only if both teams have a tank or a healer. So
change. Just it speeds up the games and twos a little bit. Welcome change.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So if you're doing double DPS again, then start at 0 and see where the game goes. So I think that's. Did you guys see anything else in the show or in the hot fixes or anything?
Everything else looked like it was PvE related, so nothing that I'm paying attention to.
Yeah, ditto. All right. Well, I think that pretty much brings us to that one last piece is for shoutouts. Vindi, do you have any shoutouts you want to give? Anybody you want to shout out in the world?
Just not really at this time. Actually, everyone who's viewed my stream, I appreciate anyone who's watched that.
Congrats on just hitting affiliate too. There we go. I saw you just tweet that out. So congrats, man.
Yeah. I just started streaming not too long ago, and it was pretty quick. So that's exciting. Good
job.
And other than that, what about just also to you guys? Thanks for having me on tonight.
Always
Our
a
pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Andallyn, do you have any shoutouts?
No, I don't have any shoutouts.
All right. I'm gonna give a shout out to the guys over there at Scrubs vs. the Worlds for inviting us over and chatting to them. That was a blast, and really looking forward to hearing what everybody thinks of the discussion we had over there. So, all right. Well, Vindi, as we just mentioned, you just got affiliate. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you on your Twitch stream as well as just generally in the Intersphere?
Sure. So I am now available on Twitch, twitch.tv. I think it's /Vindithius. Hang on, let me see.
No worries.
Yeah, it is Vindithius. So yeah, Twitch, Vindithitheus. It's an old Wrath name. So
nice.
And then you can also find me on Twitter at VindyPvP.
All right.
Perfect.
And we'll definitely have those links in the show notes to help people find you as well.
Really appreciate that.
No worries. And Andallyn, why don't you let our listeners know where they can find us?
Sure. You can contact us directly with a tweet to @technically_PvP or by an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can also join our discussions, and please do, on the Warcraft Radio Discord, specifically in our Technically PvP channel.
Indeed. And you can also visit the Warcraft Radio website to find a podcast directory with us and many other great shows over at warcraftradio.com. This new directory also has a review system, so head on over there and tell everyone what you think of the shows. Links for all this is going to be in the show notes. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll chat with you next time. Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Bye.
Our pleasure.